call this facility committee meeting to order, and if you'll do roll call for us.
Facilities Chairman, Mr. King.
Here?
Finance Chairman, Mr. Doherty.
Here.
Chairman Smith.
On his way.
Mrs. Black.
Here.
Mr. Connor.
Here.
Mr. Groom.
Here.
Mrs. Haddon.
Here.
Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Schaefer. Mr. Slater.
Here.
Ms. Thomas.
Here.
Superintendent Dr. Robertson.
Here.
All right, and purpose of today, we passed a couple months by not having facility committee meetings, so we're going to lump quite a bit in one, and we're going to give you let you know the progress of where we are both in phases 1, 2, and 3 with regards to the capital projects bond money. Also with our new custodial company and our continuing but new contract with our landscaping and grounds company. And then we will also present, we do have a few $1 million left out of that bond money for phase 4, and we will put that out there today also. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Sharp, and he's got some different things that both Mr. Witt and Mr. Coulter are going to be talking about, I think. So, Dr. Sharp?
Thank you, Mr. King. As you pointed out, we brought you an agenda tonight with a somewhat detailed update on where we are with our new custodial vendor, ABM. As you all know, we spent the summer onboarding ABM back into the district, and we've got some reports, some data to share with you about the progress of ABM getting up and running in our schools. We'll also bring you a brief update on City Green with some information about our grounds and landscaping. Then, as you mentioned, the bond and capital maintenance projects. Very fortunate in our district to have this $60 million to implement improvements for deferred maintenance and capital improvements. And Justin Witt, his team, has spent the better part of the last 2.5 years doing incredible work in our district. We'll talk about the phase 1 spending of the funds and updates on those projects, phase 2, phase 3, and then some additional projects that will be coming to you in September for approval, September, October, which we're calling phase 4. And just while I've got the microphone, I want to brag on Justin Witt and his team. It's probably the largest investment in capital maintenance and deferred maintenance our district's seen ever. And his team have done an incredible job managing all of those projects, keeping them on time, and in many cases under budget. So very proud of that work. Also some updates on our current building plans. You know, we opened up Tyner. Of course, we'll talk more about that later. But we've got some other plans in the works for building projects that you've approved. We'll give you an update on that. And then talk about some additional projects that we have our eye on, and we're already doing some preliminary work and to be prepared for the next opportunity we have for access of this type of funds. What are those projects we want to start thinking about now? And then just some general updates about those projects. Then Dr. Robertson is going to share with you some information about some work he's been doing with the local organization, Chattanooga Neighborhood Enterprises. Very exciting opportunity for the district, and I'll save that for him to share with you. And we'll get started. And if you have any questions for us along the way, please let us know. We think we'll be able to answer most of them. But Ben Coulter, who's been leading the custodial work, and he's going to present to you our ABM information.
Good afternoon, Board. So we just want to give you a brief overview of how things are going. As you're aware, you guys.
Excuse me, microphone.
Oh, sorry.
We can hear you, but any viewing audience can't.
Yeah, so as you're aware, ABM was awarded the custodial contract on June 1st of this year. They've been at work for over 12 weeks now, preparing our schools for the start of school. They're in process of fully staffing their team of 340 positions. They didn't get started till June 1st, so that's a heavy lift, trying to get to 340 from 0 in 12 weeks. But I'll show you a line chart here in just a minute just to show you the progress they have made. Their focused efforts this summer were on completing critical summer projects, including floor waxing and deep cleaning tasks. We contracted with a company called Core America. They helped us do the RFP for this. They helped us build in the performance penalties that we have in the contract, and we'll go over them later on in this presentation. But they're also going to be, we're purchased the Smart Inspect software from them that does our inspections, and that'll be part of the KPIs for the contract as well. And they're also doing our third-party quarterly audit. So they'll come in and do about 20% of our schools, and they'll do an independent audit, go all the way through it, and tell you everything that's wrong with the buildings and score it. And that gives us a good baseline for how our schools should be and where we should go. So anyways, took to the first audit. Yeah, so we've already got information on the first audit. You should have it there in front of you. So they took, so that last bullet line, 5,185 items were identified. And they just did a rough sampling of the school, probably about 20% of the rooms. And they took 1,467 photos, and that was 14 different schools that they went to. So they use something called a quality success percentage, QSP. And the QSP was 71.6 for the buildings that they went to, which is not satisfactory. 85% is what we have set up in our new contract. They have to be at 85% of all the rooms in the building, the average. Otherwise, they will have to re-inspect it, and if they fail 2 inspections, they will have to pay a 3% penalty for that particular school. So here's some of the deficiencies. This is just a graph of the deficiencies that they found in those 14 schools. You can see fixtures in the restrooms was 185, floor corners was 181. I can let you guys study that. I'm not going to read it all off to you, but if you want to look further, you can view those. One of the other things that ABM has done is they did a summer cleaning report card that they sent out to all the schools and had them report back. So their score was 89.57 on the score. Now that doesn't translate to inspection data. That's just a score that they used in their survey.
And could I interrupt for a second? So the Core America did the photos in that pre-ABM, correct?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
the week they started, June 1st, it was
Right.
the week of June 1st. I'm sorry I left it off, yeah.
Yes, all
They
right.
did it June 1st, or the week of June 2nd. I think the 1st was a Sunday.
Right.
So they did the 2nd through the 4th, and I was actually with them when they walked all the buildings. So
And how often do they do it, or will they do it?
we're going to do it quarterly.
Quarterly, okay, sorry if I missed that.
So, and if they fail on any of those, then there's a penalty that kicks in, the 3% penalty for each school that's below the 85% threshold. Going forward, they have a QR code complaint system. I don't know if any of you have heard of that, but they put QR codes in different parts of the building, and then teachers, anybody staff-wise in the building, if they see something wrong, they just take a picture with or go to the website through their phone, and then they fill out the survey. They have to put their room number. That all goes to the regional management as well as the local management, and then we'll be getting copies of that too. That starts today. It started a little bit last week. Some of the schools got a little bit of a head start, but they're using it. So it's supposed to be fully operational in all the schools today.
Does that go to you all, us, or does that go to
We
them
have
first?
we will have access to it. They haven't given it to us yet because they're still getting it operational. But I want direct access to it, and they said that they would. And then we'll also be getting weekly reports on it. Weekly staffing reports. These are important to the schools. That tells them who is in the building, how many positions they have filled. That part we're still getting going. It's not been fully implemented. We hope to get all 8 zone managers giving those reports by the end of this week. The next is the staffing. So if you can see from that line chart, that's where they started at the very bottom in the 200 mark area, 200, 210 somewhere, and now they're at 305. So they're 305 out of 340 positions. So you can see a steady increase in the number of positions. And just to show you where they're at, they've had over 700 applications for those 340 positions. So they've already gone through a little bit of turnover.
Could I add one thing there?
Yes.
From what I understand, they've also, on individuals that they have hired but didn't meet their standards, they have released a few of those.
Yes. There were SSC employees that we had employed that did not pass background checks. So some of those didn't get rehired. And then they have 305, they have 68 at various stages of, in their pipeline. 11 have been sent offers, 31 have cleared the ABM background check but are getting ready to go through HCS. 27 are going through HCS background checks. We have 43 schools staffed at 100%. Right now, since they do have a shortage, they're using overtime to cover those hours at other schools that are understaffed. So they since June 1st, they have accumulated 4,300 hours of overtime. And we'll look at it in just a second, but the areas where they're understaffed, they just started increasing the pay by $1 to try to get those schools staffed. So you can see on here, the 3 in the red are the ones where they're struggling a little bit with staffing. That would be East Hamilton, Red Bank, Signal Mountain, and Saudi Daisy.
Those are zones.
And those are zones. That's his schools. I meant zones. And so those were the same places that SSC struggled too. So, but hopefully.
Why do you think that is?
I don't really know. They have struggled finding people that would go there. And
I can speak to
Okay.
SSC, so I don't get necessarily East Hamilton, Ooltewah. I do understand Saudi Daisy and Signal Mountain. If you think about just having to drive Nolan and Signal Mountain, if you even live downtown, it's still a 35-minute drive probably. If you go into North Hamilton or North River Future Ready Institute, the drive is just, it's long for a lot of employees.
And they have started shuttle service. They're going to start shuttling workers. Like if they can find somebody downtown, they're going to shuttle those to some of those sites. So they've already started that. Finally, we're going to look at the KPI performance, the things that they have to hit. One is just making sure all nightly tasks have been completed. That was one of our issues that we had with SSC or with the previous provider, is that there was not any night supervision. Service provider joint inspections. So they'll be doing inspections. They have to inspect half of our schools every month. So in the course of 2 months, every school will be inspected, and if anyone fails, they have to re-inspect it the next month. And then if they miss 2, if they miss 2 months in a row, then there's a 3% performance fee for the individual building. Third-party inspections has the same penalty. They'll be coming in September. We're trying to nail down the exact date right now. Quality improvement plan, we plan to meet with them quarterly or even more often on an improvement plan if they don't hit their marks. And then finally, our staffing. The staffing is for 95% to 100%. And then if they don't meet that, then they have to pay us for the difference between 95% and whatever they are. I will say right now they're under a grace period, a 90-day grace period, until these penalties kick in. So, but that should be in the next week or two that they'll be at the 90 days. So what's next for us? We'll be putting out our own district quarterly customer satisfaction survey. We were doing that last year. So we've already kind of got a baseline with how SSC was, so we'll be able to determine exactly where ABM is in relation. So they'll get asked the same questions and same evaluation. Like I said, the third-party audits are in September. Monthly quality improvement plan meetings we've already scheduled. Continuous monitoring of inspection data. We own the software, so it's our software. We don't have to worry about them giving us access. They have to use our software, so we can look at it real time. Principals get an emailed copy whenever they complete one. So if they disagree with how their building is, they have an opportunity to go meet up with the zone manager or Dennis, or even get myself involved, and we can make sure that it's getting cleaned. Continuous monitoring of the QR code system, continuous monitoring of staffing data, creating project work for each school. That's a place that's been a little bit of a mess. There was some stuff that didn't get done completely during the summer. Those got identified, trying to make sure that those get done on breaks, some of the stuff that wasn't done. And then building a floor waxing schedule, that's one of the big things. This year they just really only was able to come in and wax over things. They weren't able to strip it down all the way to the bare tile. So just building a schedule out for the next 2 or 3 years. And that's it from the custodial. You guys have any questions?
The third party, is that Core America?
Yes,
or is
that's
that-
Core America.
Okay, all right.
And I was very impressed when I was with them. They were taking, like I said, they took 1,500 pictures, identified 5,200 items. So,
Great job.
thank you. Okay, now going to our grounds. There's really not a whole lot here on grounds. City Green was awarded the contract. They had been subbing under SSC in the previous contract, but now it's a direct relationship. Mulching of the grounds, school grounds, we included that in the RFP, so that had never been done before. So they're doing 3 inches of mulch at every school. And I'm sure you guys have already noticed when you went to your schools. I think it makes a big difference from what I've been able to see, and the principals seem to have really noticed as well.
Yes, very much.
They have completed 50 schools so far. So they had to pause it last week because of the rain and stay on the mowing schedule, but they're supposed to be completing 10 schools this week, and then the remainder will be the next 2 weeks after that.
Is that annually? Is that something
They're going to do that annually. So they'll even come back. We did it this first year in August. They'll be doing it in January and February on a revolving basis. But obviously, since they just put 3 inches down, they'll probably just be putting a top coat on in February. Yeah, the remaining schools. So we did come up with a grounds concern form that schools can fill out whenever there's a issue. So we've had 32 since July 1st. Most of them had just been, when's my yard being mowed, or my yard needs to be mowed. And most of the time it was the next day or 2 days later. We've had some rainstorms kick up, 6 inches of rain, and it'll make this time of year it just made the grass pop up. They have been very responsive. They have gotten it done either that day or the next. I don't know of anything that's taken more than a day. So I'll just give a kudos to them on that. We're going to put them under a quarterly customer satisfaction survey as well. And then one thing that's not on these slides is we've done a lot of work to let the principals and even the teachers know in custodial exactly what's expected, the scope of work for the buildings, the classrooms. You're supposed to be spot mopped 4 times a week, supposed to get a full mopping every week. So in that sense, we expect a little bit more complaints this year, but we expect the quality of work to be higher. So, but that's the update I have from grounds, and I'll turn it over to Justin.
Well, just to end that, I know almost every administrator in my district they were thanking the wrong individuals. They were saying, "Oh, we love ABM for putting that mulch out," but they're used to the two being connected. But that was corrected them and told them that it was City Green, and so great start.
Thank you, Ben. First of all, Dr. Sharp kind of stole my thunder there to begin, but just to say how proud I am of our staff, and I can confirm this is the largest capital campaign I've ever undertaken. So the second largest was 15 million, so this one is 60 million. So not only from the office staff, from the pre-planning and the purchase orders, but our maintenance staff as well. So it's been a combination of everybody on the team, and just to put it in perspective, I was looking at some numbers, and in 8 weeks, so this summer in 8 weeks, our staff improved almost 1 million square feet of HVAC space. So proud of all the hard work. Still have a long way to go. But the way I've broken it down, it's, too much information for a slide, so you have a handout. Phase one through phase three has been approved by the board and the commission, and I've broken them down by district, as well as the original budget and just a status update. So making some headway. Phase four, I've marked with phase four as a draft, unapproved. These numbers are very rough budget numbers we put together. Some projects that we've discussed and had some discussion with multiple parties, schools, Dr. Sharp, Justin Robertson. So, and if you do the math, this phase four will put us around $54 million. So 60 million sounds like a lot of money, but you start putting it to paper, it goes pretty quick. I will say, I hope, and I will emphasize hope, in phase one, we've had several projects with some savings, so I would like to, what we're thinking is approve phase four, maybe in September or October, allow us to complete some of these projects, and definitely phase one, look and see if we can shake out some savings and may produce another phase on the back end of these projects. Do I have any questions on the?
District, the first page is the update, this is phase one, District 4, Franklin Roberts, Clifton Hill, Soddy, that's phase one.
It should marked on the upper right-hand page, very first, so phase one, phase two is on the second page, and they should be labeled there.
What are you looking at? Let me see.
It's like this. It's not in your presentation.
It's under the legal size paper.
Check right under this.
I want the green stripes.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
All right, if, any questions, we move on? You have a question?
Or,
Oh, I'm gonna have to.
I guess I'll just, let's just speak to
All right, Ms. Black?
For phase four, do we already have these projects planned, like the elevator at Lookout Mountain? Is that something that's already been designed? Do we have space to do it? Or is it gonna be, like, is it already
So-
planned out in the building?
I actually I was gonna do emergency approval, but
Okay.
I've already have a quote ready to go. It's replacing the existing elevator.
Okay,
So we don't have to build a new shaft or anything like that. It's replacing the existing.
all right.
And Ms. Haddon?
Yes, we've emailed, I've been meeting with Udoa High, Mr. Mullins and Mr. Rusk, who's here with us today with the girls soccer program, and we have been emailing about the potential restroom facilities there and maybe any other enhancements on the soccer field. I was hoping to maybe get these on phase four. I know this is a pretty recent discussion, as far as emailing for, I guess, several weeks back, or maybe the past month, but I would really like, I don't know if there's funding, I don't remember the costs involved, or if we got a cost estimate for that restroom construction or not.
Didn't get a cost estimate, just looking at some historical cost. So that's what I would discussed on the possibility of the savings from phase one, try to pick that up. Or we can look at phase four as well. So we'll make note of that.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Central, it says that the 3.7 million February competition. Well, mine
Which
says,
phase?
Phase two.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The rooftop units?
That's the rooftop units. We're replacing the rooftop units.
It's supposed to be
So it's
completion.
completion, that's just a typo I said.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Has that work begun, or are you having to order those?
It bids, I believe the middle of this month. Yeah, the size of that project, we had, we have to, have it designed by an engineer, go through the full
What are we gonna
board
do
process.
when it turns cold and they ain't got no heat up there?
I think you've got enough space in that building, to move classrooms if we have to. We can also do some temporary heat. I think you're typically about 8 to 10 weeks after you order units. That's the lead time that I'm hearing now.
Okay, so it's being bid now, you said?
I'll text you the actual bid date, but it should be middle of this month, middle of September.
Well, that's not my school, but they're all my schools, but I mean, they got a mess, they got a mess.
Oh, yeah, the question was, how many do we are, I think we installed 4 last, winter.
Yeah, in April.
In April, yeah. So we installed 4, and this will take care of the rest of them. Yep.
All right, Ms. Jones?
So, I don't see it on here, but, and I know there's potential lookout in this other list about Dalewood, but, Barger. I don't see anything on here, but through the summer, I got calls about Barger.
When you say Barger, you talking about the roof?
The roof, I mean, I was so shocked that they didn't call me when we had the Noah's Ark flood come through here a couple of weeks ago. I did get a couple of pictures about some things, but there's nothing on here, and it's always something with that building. So I know we were talking about looking at that in the phase, well, when we were talking about looking at Archidon Middle and I just want to know, given if there is some extra, because I mean, you said there might be some residual funds. Nothing against a soccer field, but when I got kids getting rained on top of their heads, and they're already in portables, I mean, I wouldn't want anybody in any. I mean, I wouldn't want if Barger was on the soccer field and it was raining at Udawa, I would be saying the same thing. Like that building, until we figure out what to do with them, that is always gonna be top. I'm gonna wear you out, Justin, on your nerves. I know.
Yeah, I'll check on the roof. I mean, to your point, we did not.
And the infestations.
We didn't have many complaints when the flood came through. So
Yeah,
I think we've we've been able to maintain, but we'll take a look at it.
Just thinking that, like, if there is some, I'd like for us to make sure that we're thinking about anything that does come up, because some always happen, something does come up over there a lot. Just
Okay.
because the building is probably 60 years old. But just wanting to make sure that we, if you're able to do that and hold some off, I don't know, that's a big concern for me. Because if it ain't water, it's bugs. If it ain't bugs, it's heat. If it ain't heat, it's cold, mold. It's always something. Well, we can't move into Dalewood with Dalewood and Dalewood. Okay, great. And I just gotta make sure I leave that out there on the table so we just can't forget that. Because it might be a while for that.
And while we're talking about roofs, if I remember going through the 2 main areas that we're spending for this capital projects is roofs and heating and air. Do we get any kind, so as we bid those out, are those different areas bid? Separate companies can win that, or will this all be one?
Well, we typically, we'll bid, basically each line will be, depending on the size of the job, if we don't self-perform the work, we'll bid it out.
Okay.
Yeah, so if it's a roof, we'll bid a separate roof project. If it's the rooftop unit, it'll be just replacing the rooftop units, a standalone bid.
I guess where I'm going with this, we have a lot that we're covering in phase 1 and 2, and I know in the painting costs for the different buildings and stuff we saved some money there. Is there a projected savings in the roof because there's so many different buildings we're getting roofs replaced on?
I think we'll have to go project by project. That's,
Oh, okay.
that's what I was saying. If maybe approve phase 4, let us complete
Yeah.
more of these projects and see, I mean, they all come in, they're totally different. Some roofs are, we've got some, EPDM, TPO, different types of roofs, different sizes, different areas of town. We have more, some contractors are more competitive depending on what side of town the project's on. So as they bid and as we complete them, we can do a final wrap-up.
Right,
Looking
okay.
at looking at the overall, what's phase 1, 31 million. We'll just look at that overall
Yeah.
savings.
I just wasn't sure on something, the scope of this size and how many roofs we're doing and how many total millions that is. I was just curious how that worked, whether it was individuals or this district versus this, I was wondering how the bids went out for that. So hoping that since we had so many, there was a way to save some there or sneak another building in there.
Yeah.
So.
Any other
All right.
questions?
I'm looking here, I'm sure I'm just overlooking it, Hickson High School gym, I know it's here somewhere. I just told him. Just kidding, Jeff, just a comic relief there.
Mr. Slater.
Just point of reference, Saudi High School was torn down in 1937. It's Saudi Daisy High School.
Oh. You always get me on that.
He
That's
gets me on that too as well.
That was shorthand. It wouldn't fit in the space.
Just put SDHS will be fine.
Ms. Black.
Okay, I know I've had several conversations with Dr. Sharp and a few with you, Mr. Witt, as far as the issues at Howard with the HVAC system. I'm wondering, is that project so large that we're going to have to fund it separately, that it can't be in this money? Or, because there's a real issue with temperature regulation. It's freezing during cold, extreme cold, it is burning up, people pass out in extreme heat. So I just wanted to kind of get an update.
Yeah, that's we forgot to bring this. It's actually a separate item that most likely will come either in September or October. If you remember back the approval of the new Lookouts Stadium,
Mhm.
there was money set aside
Yes.
specifically for Howard. And so the county commission is working on a proposal to expend those funds. It includes HVAC, it includes tearing down the old gym, replacing the old gym with some type of indoor athletic facility, and then fencing the property.
Mhm.
Tucker is here, is that Wednesday or next week? And Dr. Mackey is here as well. County commission is looking to consider that on Wednesday, and then if they approve it, it'll come back to you guys to approve. We'll send that to you tomorrow in a separate thing. It was supposed to be on here and it just got
But the
missed.
HVAC is going to be part of that?
The HVAC is part of it.
Okay, thank you.
And
I just wanted the public to know we're discussing all of these other projects, that how it's planned, where it's coming from.
And I will say, we did, it has been an improvement. We did replace the chillers. There were $600,000 worth of chillers. And then also through CTE, we put in the shop area where it did not have air conditioning. That was another $400,000, I think, we put in that shop area as well. So we have seen some improvements.
Thank you.
And before we go on, I would like to recognize Dr. Mackey here from our county commission. So nice to see you, sir. And also Tucker McClendon from the mayor's office. All right. Ms. Jones again?
So, to add to what Jill was asking, when we started this conversation about Howard a couple of years ago, when the students came and spoke to us, staff came and spoke to us, and then we had the joint meeting with county commission. And then we ended up adding a community meeting at Howard, in which they provided us, and I still have this document if anybody does not, a list of needs, things that they said were needs, not what anybody else said were needs, but the people that were in that building every day said were needs, and HVAC was one of them. With this,
That's the one I get calls about.
right. No, HVAC was one of them. I think my concern is that it's nice to make something look shiny and pretty on the outside, for people to drive by and see the field, the Reggie White field, and little kids are like, who is Reggie White? We probably should put Philadelphia Eagles or whatever, Green Bay or whatever. Probably should put something up there to say who he is, but
UT
nevertheless.
Vol would be better.
Huh? Ball, yeah. I mean, all of those things, right? Most of all, Hustle Tiger. Side note. But my question is, I'm really in a phase now, like, it's nice to make things look nice and shiny, but we want them to be warm and we want them to be cool and we don't want things raining on their heads. And they gave us a list of needs. And so while the county commission, we appreciate anything that they do to support our schools, I don't know if knocking the old gym down and putting an indoor athletic facility is was a need on their list. And I'm just wondering if we're gonna if they're gonna allocate money, like, to make best use of the money, or to go and refer back to that list. Tucker, do you have that list? I'll send you a picture tonight. You got it? Okay, I'll send you a picture tonight. But I think that's very important. Mr. Mack, you got that list? I'll send it to you tonight. I just think it's really important to go back and look at that, or maybe even have a conversation again with the staff and the kids there, because once again, it's nice to make things look great for the people driving by, but if it's not effective for the student body that we're supporting and the staff that is teaching those and pouring into those students, then while appreciative, I would just advocate for it to be effective.
Yeah, I remember that meeting well, and asked Mr. McClendon to come up if he wants to offer any insight into this, but we went back and
Tucker
forth.
left, so he wasn't there the whole meeting. He had a boot on his foot. I remember.
We went back and forth about these funds and how to best use them. What I'll also recall back to that meeting is that was a time of overcrowding at Howard. If you remember, the boards made a decision about Howard Connect that opens up basically room for another 500 kids, which one of the biggest concerns was overcrowding and space for kids, the cafeteria size. Now we're able to use both sides of the cafeteria. So we've addressed a lot of the concerns. The major concern that we have not addressed is HVAC, which Tucker can attest to. Like, we were adamant that had to be a part of this proposal.
Yeah, so the agreement with the South Broad tip, when we were in conversations with the city and with the developers, the language in the agreement is for community benefit at the campus.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversation at the IDB meeting, basically, they didn't want us to go and supplant deferred maintenance funds with this 10 million. And so, to your point, what we've done is we're gonna do the indoor sports facility, but we've also tied the AC, the theater, tearing down the old gym, some security fencing that Dr. Ware wants, and stuff like that. So it will be probably bigger than the amount that we were supposed to. We've done $1 million of that 10 million through the softball and baseball lights. But since we're doing it all together, you get a little cost savings on something, as we talked about, Orchard Knob, the engineering, design, that stuff. Throwing it all together with this project just makes sense, so we can tackle the AC. The theater is in need of.
Yeah, because I was going to ask about that, because I remember the lighting in the theater. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Maybe I'm still going to send you the list, though. Thank you.
All right, so that looks like all the lights. I'm going to give a shout out to District 9. It's great to see that Central High School is on that list for a turf field. I know right now we've got some drastic concerns in District 9 about losing students, so that's one thing that I hope will help to keep students in District 9. If we have any other comments or questions about this, we'll do that now. If not, we will move on to updates on the building projects and the architectural companies. And just to recap, I did add the Ooltewah soccer restroom facilities, Barger roof, and question mark Howard HVAC. So as possible further discussions.
All right, just a quick update on the our larger building projects to the bond fund. So the Franklin Roberts Gateway, we've got Tinker Ma Architects under contract. Big challenge there is existing conditions. So that they're on board now doing 3D scans, looking at existing wall ratings, how we're going to separate that portions of that building for educational use. So they're underway with the design. Clifton Hills, we received architect responses. We're waiting on proposal reviews, and the next piece of that process will be the interviews and the final the selection of 5, and then 5 for interviews, and then we'll select 3 after the interview process. Sorry Daisy Middle, MTA Architects, they're under contract in the programming phase. So we've got a couple meetings set up actually next week to do another site visit, continue in the programming phase, and in parallel, we are working with our purchasing department, putting our CMAR RFP together. So we have that very, very close. It just needs a few more details and some final touches. North River, Franklin Architects are under contract. Also, I think through the press release, the partnership that we have working with YMCA, working on an agreement there to get the details of that ironed out. We'll send that back to the board. Working on schematic design. We're in programming and slowly moving into more detailed schematic design. And the same with North River. We're working on the CMAR RFP. Brainerd HK Architects, they've been selected as the architect. I'm in, and our team is in negotiations with the contract. So we're trying to have several questions there on just verifying scope and making sure everything's squared away with their contract. Well, I'm hoping to have that at the September board. So as you remember, we did some early studies for future building projects. Those 3 were Thrasher, Orchard Knob, and Normal Park. So we'll hit on those first.
Justin, you go back to that for a second. So added District 7 on here. Ms. Schaefer and I have been talking about concerns in District 7 and put a committee together to address this. One of the things that we talked about would be helpful is we haven't actually explored whether or not Westview or Appison can be added on to. So similar to what we've done at Thrasher, Orchard Knob, and Normal Park, we're going to recommend working with an architect to go in and evaluate those buildings along with the Cigna Annex building to see if we can add on to them, and then have a conversation with that committee in District 7 about what that might look like. So that's new to everyone to see. We haven't brought it to you, but we will bring it to you, if not in September, probably in October, to go about getting an architect to evaluate those 3 buildings.
And that's a good point. What you'll see here in the next slides will be similar to those Appison, Westview, and these Brainerd Annex studies. So it was interesting, on these 3, we did with 3 different architects, so the formatting is a little bit different. These are not the full reports. We can get the full reports to you just for presentation sake. It's a lot of information, so we've condensed those just for, like I said, for presentation, just hit the highlights. So Thrasher Elementary is just a site plan there, existing project or existing site details. So, you know, some of the things that we've seen, the parking, the drive area, the different areas there of the 1990 edition. And of course, we've added in, I don't know, the last, 2 years, 2 portables there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 classrooms now that we've got in portables. So the scope of work that we looked at with the architect, obviously site work, improving parking, remodeling a good bit of the existing space. Looked at some areas that we could possibly, with the increase in enrollment, options of increasing that cafeteria size into the stage area and reworking some of that area. And then looking at new construction, we were looking back at the 1990 area there. So I don't know if you can see, but really cleans up the parking and drive in the front, increasing the parking in the rear. Obviously, we'll lose the portables, and then that addition, we landed in the rear of the 1990 addition there. So also the architect looked at a phasing. You know, it looks pretty on paper, but how do you build it? So did a good job here of a temporary construction entrance and really looking at a way to do an addition without interrupting school traffic, school operations. Orchard Knob Middle.
Actually,
Oh, sorry.
sorry, Mr. If
Questions?
you don't mind, can I ask one quick question?
Yep.
Does this take into account the access for children on the playground? For
We've actually addressed that.
already taken care of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We put in a rubberized surface on 2 playgrounds, and we also put in a new sidewalk.
Thank you.
Make a trip up the mountain.
And sorry to jump ahead, but do we have any questions on Thrasher? So Orchard Knob, this one, we actually had 4 options. Again, it was interesting to see different ideas, different views, 3 different firms. I've only included option 2. That's one that, to me, I mean, this is very, very early, but made the most sense. So again, site plan, I'll walk through option 2, but existing building, we also own the football field across the street, as well as the parcel south of the building, and just an overall site view. So just, again, blocking and how things fit. Again, looking at existing structures, how the option of additions and the options of renovation. So the baseball field could fit. Again, just looking at all options. Don't know that it fits great, but just wanted to have a placeholder and see what our options were. So I liked phase 2 because we could phase the building to where you would not, again, interrupt school activities. You could keep the school operational. The first phase would be a classroom addition to the left, where I think their CTE program is now, or not CTE, but an E-Lab. Build a small classroom addition there, and also renovate the existing building with a new kitchen and cafeteria. Use the kitchen and cafeteria area as additional classroom space. And then it looks different here, but we would demo that whole front wing that faces the front door. So a new office space, new classrooms, and again, having the architect engaged each section of the building, and depending on the year that it was built, you know, they're built differently, which one made sense to keep, which one made sense to renovate, and that portion did not make sense to renovate, just the amount of money that you would have to spend with all the improvements. So again, the good thing with this plan is it would give you a brand new facade. You know, this is an opportunity to really clean up the front, as well as I didn't show the site plan, but this also cleans up the parking and turnaround in the front area as well.
When you say the front, are you talking about 3rd Street or?
McDaniel building.
Okay.
Yeah.
But where's the new addition? I mean, I'm trying to figure this out.
So basically, everything that would face the McDaniel building, that would be a new wing. The old wing would be demolished.
Going this way towards Highland Park.
Correct. Like to the front door, that whole wing to your left, we would demo and build new.
But they're
And build
recommend.
up? I'm trying to figure out where the second story comes from. Did I say second story? Demo
No.
only the second story?
No, demo, and then build a new 2-story in its place.
Oh.
Can I speak? Is it time for me?
Yes.
Are you finished?
I'm finished.
You are finished. Okay, I know he gave y'all, phase, recommendation, option 2. Being a representative for that district, I'm totally against it. The facade of just always patching Orchard Knob, it needs to be a brand-new school. They can exist in that school with that field right beside it. There can be a whole new school built there with them still going to school for the whole year. In my opinion, to suggest that you renovate just the gym with all of these other areas getting brand-new schools, the children in that district deserve new schools, a new school as well. And so I'm just putting it out there. I'm not just going to sit by and just settle, because I think Orchard Knob Middle School deserves a new school like everybody else. And to even suggest adding to all these other schools without even looking at what these children are going to school in and what the building looks like. And we're always renovating, we're always patching. They've been renovating and patching Orchard Knob for I don't know how long. So in my opinion, number 1 was the phase for me. I think 1 and 4 was both at 26 million. I think, I'm not sure what 4 was, but it just needs to, in my opinion, be a whole new school. So I'm not sure about the tearing down, because I think you told me you were still going to keep the auditorium and just renovate it, and the cafeteria renovated. Certain parts you were going to renovate.
I would
but they were
suggest.
still part of that 1960 existing old building.
Yeah, what I would suggest is it would be, anything remaining would be completely renovated, as in we take it down to almost to the structure. But again, what we charged the architects with was a multitude of options, what makes sense, as, tried to get a good dollars and cents options. And that's-
We probably should have reminded everybody at the beginning, these are projects that would be for the next bond issue. Like, these are the 4 that we're saying probably are the most
Right,
pressing needs that would be part of the next bond issue. So what we're trying to do is get a plan and get ahead, so that when money does become available, we're not starting from scratch, but we're already ready to go. I don't know, Tucker, if you would have, the last bond issue before this previous one that was approved in, is it 22 or 23? 23. So the one previous to that was in 17, so 6 years. So, it's probably somewhere 4 to 6 years. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The last one that was approved was in 2016. This one that we're currently doing, those other 5 projects, was approved in early '23. So if you go on that similar time frame, we're looking at another 4 years.
I hate to ask you to go back. If you go back to this slide.
I want to go back.
Okay.
Can you go back there? And I won't hold you exactly to this, but help me remember the numbers on each one. And I don't expect you to give me the exact numbers, but roughly. In other words, the renovating the Gateway, renovating and build Clifton Hills. If you can just put a number on each one. Just a rough number. I know you can't get it exact.
Gateway was around 15.
All right, so Gateway was around 15. What was Clifton?
36, I believe.
How much?
36.
36? Oh, here we go.
I carry that thing every time.
So, now wait a minute. This says Gateway 50 though, Ben, and he's saying 15. That's a big
That's for
difference.
the first floor.
That was back when we were gonna put a state-of-the-art creative
Yeah,
arts center
I
there.
understand that, but I mean, but we agreed to this document.
Right.
Okay, so let me plug, because these numbers wouldn't be the right numbers, Ben. So you said 15 on Gateway.
36.
You say 36 on Clifton?
Correct.
All right, so Soddy Daisy,
30.
30 on Soddy Daisy. All right, Alpine, DuPont, Rivermont.
52.
52? Okay, and that was before the plan with YMCA. All right, and then, Brainerd 6 through 12 campus on current site,
Brainerd's 36.
36. How much?
169.
Is that new math, old math?
You want that, didn't you? 169? In this first round. I want to talk about Clifton Hills a little bit.
Well, can,
I was in that building the other day, and that's the first time I've been in there in a long time. And, yeah, I want to understand what exactly the plans are for down there.
So the plan as approved was a renovation to the existing building and an addition.
Always renovate.
And so the addition would be where?
We've got one small addition on the front as you walk in, front right, and then the larger addition is in the rear of the building where the portables are.
So is there any addition for their cafeteria? Because we were leaving there and them poor babies were still going to lunch in elementary school.
Up on the stage.
And I was like, and Joe said, no, they can't be going to lunch, Carissa. And I said, Joe, looking at the size of that cafeteria, they're still going to lunch. And then the poor gentleman said, yes, ma'am, they're going to lunch. So is there any, like, what's happening in that? You know, I hate a cafetorium, gymnasium, whatever they called.
Yeah.
You know, the gym, cafeteria, everything, the all-purpose room. I hate those. Can we not no longer create, that's bad. Can we remove those from any concept of build with, that we're going to proceed with?
We obviously haven't done any of those since 1970 something.
Right, but if we're not going to address it, they still
No,
going
we are
have
addressing
right?
it, but I mean, I understand we can keep going back to this conversation, but at the beginning, what we, as a board, were discussing is like, how do we get more efficient, and how do we use the resources that we have had? And specifically with Clifton Hills, we talked about getting efficient by adding on to East Side and East Lake and closing Clifton Hills. We went to that community.
They didn't want that.
They
I
did not
understand.
want it, right? And so, and I'm not trying to point out earlier comment, but if you look at all these projects, Soddy Daisy Middle is not a complete new building. It's a renovation and an add-on. Brainerd and Delwood, it's a add-on and a renovation. Clifton Hills is a renovation and an add-on. So we're trying to use buildings in a way that we're not spending $60 million every single time that we build a building. Now, this is a new build, right? But that's combining 3 schools into one. And so Clifton Hills, obviously, we said from the beginning, we said with the community, this is going to be a really tough project, and it's going to take a lot of patience as we go through it, right? But we're trying to do it in a way that allows them to keep that community school, which is what they want to do, it within budget, and do it really well, which we think that we can do. Otherwise, we wouldn't move forward with it. But it is going to be tough because it's not an easy site to build on, and that building does have some challenges like the cafeteria on the back of the gym. We do have plans to improve it. If you remember, since then, we've already fixed the ceiling and the roof. Is that right, Whit, in that
correct.
cafeteria?
Yep.
So,
Okay, I just was, the only reason why, for me, with that was just like, it was, what, 1 o'clock? It was close to 1 o'clock, Rachel. What time we left? About 1 o'clock. And they're in elementary school, and they're going to lunch at 1 o'clock. Like, I'm like, they're about to be out of school in 2 hours. Like, I don't know. That just kind of set with me for the rest of that day. So I just was wondering, was any of the addition, I mean, the renovation piece gonna be there to open that up or something? Or utilize maybe that, well, do they use that space under there, they use that for when it rains or something for play? What do they do with that? Because I'm like, that, to me, that's kind of wasted space.
They
but
do
they may
use it for
so-
play, yeah.
Okay,
And you're above the, you're above the floodplain as well.
okay, all right, thank you.
Hey, all right, Julie, you're gonna fit, okay. You said just a minute ago, I think I heard you say, that when we talked about, looking at specifically, I think, east side and doing some expansion there, and the community just was not in favor of that. I get it. If it, you know, if I can walk to school every day, I want to stay where I'm at. We had the same issues, I recall, Ben, help me here, with specifically Alpine Crest. Same issue where I went to school, walked to school every day back in the 20s. Not that long.
Yeah, I think I,
60s. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, and Jill's not gonna like what I'm about to say, but in trying to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars and trying to come up with a plan that we can get the most bang for our buck, if you will. I think we really need to look at that and talk about, would it not be best to, if Clifton Hills get out in portables, that they gotta go, and expand that school and clean it up, remodel, it's awful, and then invest money at the east side. And I know that would mean you'll have to do some rezoning, but to me, that makes the best business sense. Maybe I'm crazy here, but
We talked about that, right, and where we ended, what the board approved. You know, we even looked at East Lake, right, and one of the things that kind of also played into this is adding on to East Lake, and Justin, you helped me here, was going to be super difficult. You were gonna have to add basically a separate building on the old building site, which is catty-cornered across the street. And so when we talked about East Side as well, we ended up where we are with Clifton Hills getting a renovation add-on, and then recognizing that East Side is actually a good place to add on, and if we continue to have some growth downtown in the future, we may need that site. What I can say about this year's numbers of downtown elementaries is you're actually starting to see like a plateauing of numbers, like we were seeing year after year, more and more kids, and it looks like it's kind of settled down. And so I think that, to your point, yes, that is something possibly down the road that we would need. But what the board has approved is adding on and renovating Clifton Hills. If we wanted to reconsider that, the board would have to go through that process.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's gonna get extremely complicated, I think, when you start tearing those portables down and you start renovating Clifton Hills and adding on to Clifton Hills, and then keeping those kids in that same building. That's gonna be a nightmare. I don't know how you gonna do that. And expensive.
Yeah, well, I mean, the money that we were gonna allocate to East Lake and East Side was actually 40 million. It was 20 million apiece, so this is saving a little bit of money from that. But yeah, we've said from the beginning, it's gonna be by far the most complicated project.
You know, the other thing, and this may sound crazy too, what if you made Clifton Hills like a K-3 school or something like that? I think my friend, Ms. Schaefer.
what do you think, Jody?
I love that idea.
May I please speak? This is my district and my community. If we're just tossing out ideas, our board went through a really extensive process of, we received the suggestions from the mayor's office, we held community meetings, we listened to the community, and that's one of the things I'm actually really proud of, because a lot of folks in District 11 have not felt listened to in the past. And we understand that Clifton Hills is in the south side. It is growing. It has experienced this explosion of growth. One of the reasons that we abandoned the idea of closing Clifton Hills and expanding East Lake and East Side, not just because the renovation at East Lake was going to be a nightmare, but also because those two schools would be immediately full if we did that and built it the way that we said. There was no room for growth. By expanding Clifton Hills, we will have room for growth and can absorb some of the overcrowding in those other two schools. Not to mention the fact that this particular community is public transportation dependent for the most part. They're a walking community. They ride the bus. They do not have their own personal cars. And if we ship their kids to East Lake and East Side, a couple miles away, you're going to have a drop in parent participation, but you're going to lose that community. There are only 4 buses that run to this school, and we've already got how many kids? 700 kids there? 800? And there's only 4 buses that run. That's how many people walk to that school. That's why that community school needs to stay in place, because it serves that community. And I admit, we've always said that even though the renovated Clifton Hills is going to be able to absorb growth, should the downtown continue to grow and we continue to see folks move there and need space, Eastside has a place for that expansion that can accommodate. But to say, hey, let's just go back and have this conversation over again and completely forget all of the input from the community that's being affected, I think is incredibly disrespectful. And it makes me angry because we decided on this plan. We have the money for this plan. There's no reason to change it and do something else that doesn't pay attention to the community that's affected.
What's the trend being in terms of growth? Because I don't see any new housing construction going on down there. So and when you say that community's growing, what has been the trend in terms
I mean, I
of?
say that it's like leveling off, so we projected Clifton Hills at 696, they're at 705, East Lake projected at 631, they're at 603, East Side at 513, they're at 494, so they're right there within 10 of what was projected, where if you remember several years ago is when, we'd see 50 kids show up.
So over the last, say, 4 or 5 years, what has the trend been?
It's been ticking up, and then you're seeing a
It's
leveling
leveled
out.
now.
And
Because
that's a
you don't
community
see-
you can't necessarily
That's the
count
question I got.
rooftops. School enrollment gives us a better idea of what's happening in that community than rooftops because you have multiple families living together.
Yeah, I realize that.
Ms. Young?
Did you send me? Oh, okay. I would like to say also, when you're looking at Clifton Hills and the schools, Orchard Knob, we're losing students to some of these charter schools because of the conditions that they are. I have a question for you, Mr. Witt. How many, just from my knowledge and from my history, how many schools were built new other than Hickson Middle School and Udawa Elementary in the past? I don't know how many schools were built brand new from an old existing school that was not renovated. Like there was an old existing school, but you didn't renovate it. You built a brand new school. How many schools how many of those? This is for my history because I don't know. I know I heard Dr. Robinson talk about other schools.
Orchard Knob Elementary is
Orchard
one.
Knob Elementary.
Just did Tyner. East Lake Academy, East Lake Elementary, East Side Elementary, Hardy,
East Ridge got a new one?
East Ridge Elementary, yeah.
Hickson and,
But you
Udawa.
combined schools in East Ridge when you did that.
It was what? I'm
Typically.
sorry, what'd you say?
They combined schools in East Ridge when they did that, like McBrien.
Those two schools.
Yeah,
The elementary
they
and the middle.
combined it to one.
I mean, if you look at the history of it, Ms. Thomas, right after the merger in 1997, you could argue, and Whit helped me with this, but especially in the urban core, the elementary schools were all getting built new. I mean, almost every school down except for Orchard Knob Middle is 25 years, maybe 30 years old. And then you started to see a trend after 2008 of chasing growth and new buildings. That's where you see places like Middle Valley, East Hamilton, Ooltewah, elementary schools like that. Signal Mountain Middle High School was built. And what we're trying to do now is again, plan around getting some of our most troublesome buildings offline. And we've made a lot of progress with that. And that's what this phase of this bond project with these 5, it's reducing, the number of roofs that we have, it's reducing the number of schools, and it's taking deferred maintenance off of our books.
All right. Go ahead,
Good.
Mr. Witt.
And final one, Normal Park, again, addition, renovation. So again, just a little bit different format with the Franklin Architects, but going to roughly 1,000 students, looking at a possibility of a K-12. The upper school, you've got existing 50,000 square feet. And again, with the architect, and here with Normal Park, and Ben can help me, that it's a hub of that community, and I think that's one thing that we looked at it. Did it make sense for an addition and renovation? And you're kind of landlocked. It's location.
And I was going to say, I was absolutely going to say that. I've already kind of thought about what I was going to say, but first I just have to apologize to my other board members. I don't mean any disrespect when I say this, but that community wants the old school. They want to be added on to. They want everything to be beautiful and old and try to add on to the back. And that this is an awesome plan. I've been telling, when I've explained it to people, basically what we did was we gave them a bunch of puzzle pieces in a box and said, can you make this fit in this? And they did a great job of showing us that can happen. We've met with them multiple times and talked through all of the different, the nuances that you don't know unless you go to school there every day. Where the food's dropped off for the cafeteria, where they're picked up, where the lines go. And we've had some really great conversations throughout that. We even held a meeting to take in parental support. And it was kind of interesting at that meeting. We talked about needing to utilize portables to get to attain this dream. And I was reminded that I actually went to middle school in portables at my school, 100 years ago. Not as old as Mr. Smith here, but pretty old still. But it came to us that they wanted to keep that community that Mr. Witt was talking about, that it was more important to them to be there in the community than dispersed and wait longer. And I was remembering this and thought the same thing. If I wasn't talking about it, I don't think about being in 5th, 6th, 7th grade in affordable. I think about the school I went to and the friends that I had. So it was a really awesome conversation about community. So I just say that to say again, they're excited that we're going to take the existing building and and add on to it instead of trying to spend a lot of money on something brand new somewhere else. And I do have to say that, Dr. Sharp, I'm really happy and impressed that you found the detail to make sure that this does state the correct build date. Because we had on all the other documentation that I had that Normal Park was built in the 30s, but I dropped my kids off there, and on the front door it says established 1896. So it's in stone. This one's on Excel. I think the stone's probably right.
So Ben did a great job there in the background and where we are. I'll just run through just some site planning there. The more complicated, obviously, is the upper school. So increasing the parking and then going off the back of the building with a new gym, additional classroom space. One challenge that we still really haven't figured out is, as you can see, the parking is getting into the field. So part of this plan, and as the discussions move further, is the possibility of the field that's down the hill from CCA.
Yeah.
So again, still in discussion.
I was just noted a question that's, I think, also an important note here. At current, the upper school houses 4 through 8, and this plan would put the lower school becoming a true elementary of K-5, and the upper school being 612. So that helps a little bit. 612. Yeah, that's the thing that's been in all the MGT reports and everything, to be able to expand the seats. And as Mr. Witt was just saying, there is already an existing field with a track around it. At the bottom, if you follow CCA's campus down to Hamilton Avenue, Hamilton County Schools owns that property all the way down to Hamilton Avenue. And there's a perfect site there with not as much effort as you would need to build what Sail Creek has, that their high school goes to the elementary and utilizes that large piece of area to do different sporting events. So that would be able to be soccer and middle school football. So there's also already a giant field behind CCA that is for football. It was used for football for City High for however many years. Yeah? Did you play on that field? I kept telling people it reminded me of Candlestick. The pictures I've seen from the 70s, it's all burnt up from baseball.
So again, this site plan is more complicated, as you'll see, compared to the lower, but again, the logistics of maintaining existing school operations and parking, and that's a pretty challenging project. The lower school a little more straightforward, just going off the back of the school with new addition, increasing some of the cafeteria space, and then obviously picking up a good bit of classroom space. And we went over District 7, so everything that you saw there, looking at bringing something back to the board to do a similar study of what makes sense, what fits, and looking at the Appleton, Westview, and East Brainerd Annex.
Just want to say, I don't think we have 4 to 6 years before we have to make a decision of some sort. With the amount of growth, every week there is a new neighborhood bulldozed coming. And also, established neighborhoods are turning over. We're getting new young families in older neighborhoods turning over. So
Yeah, I think there's concern there and Signal Mountain that we put, I think that's why the argument that we've already talked about, not an argument, the argument for us to move forward with this is so when it does happen, like, we're ready to go. It also may be that, an addition at a Thrasher, an addition at a Westview or Appleton may not be such a big item that we've got to wait for the next bond, so. I think that's why the importance of us having that conversation with the community and seeing what it would look like needs to happen now.
I welcome all the conversations.
I know, yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question. Like Jody just talked about the concern she have about the growth in the area, and we all know in that area, because it was mostly rural, that it's growing rapidly. Where does that stand when it comes to other schools that need to be rebuilt or remodeled before, if the growth continues, and where are those schools, if they're already on the list, already studied, gone? Who decides what school goes first? We do, right? So I guess, and I don't know, because it's just the history, just to learn, does that sometimes supersede if the board says, okay, East Hamilton we're growing, we need a new school, a new addendum, versus schools that have no air, have other major issues, structural issues that we've been dealing with. So I was just wondering, how does that look at? And I know you're saying we decide, but I'm kind of confused, and maybe it's just me because I'm new on how the process works. And I was just curious on how that process works.
Ultimately, the board decides. So we bring recommendations. What we've been saying since 2020, and when I say we, previous administrations and previous boards have been focused on, I would say, really 3 things. Number 1, trying to reduce the number of schools that we have. Number 2, trying to reduce the number of square footage that we have. And number 3, trying to reduce deferred maintenance. And so these decisions have been made trying to do those. What you've seen out of the $60 million that was approved as part of that last bond fund is also us pressing in on HVACs, on roofs, on all these things that are hitting at what you've said. We're in a lot better shape. We've got a goal of reducing, and I can't tell you off the top of my head, I should know this, of how many schools that we have that were rated under 70% by MGT. We can get that number, but we are taking those buildings offline as fast as we can. I think the one big issue, or the one next one that we've got to plan for, is Barger. You're not seeing that here, but once Delwood is completed and goes over, plan is to move Barger into Delwood's building, which would take Barger offline. So we've made a lot of progress in those three areas.
So and it's just a question, so, for instance, say in East Brainerd School, there is growth.
Yes.
And they do need an expansion. What about, have you all ever possibly considered busing those students to those schools that do have availability? And I know every parent wants their child to be in their area, I know that. But cost effectiveness, when we're talking about that, I guess that's just my question, has that ever been done for the school
It has.
system?
I want to say that I have another cost-effective measure before we went there. It's called restructuring my buildings. So that was for the public to know. That is why I wanted to come up with another cost-effective measure, because other schools need things. Miss Jackie's school needs things. And I came up with another plan where we didn't have to bust our kids or rezone our kids out of District 7, but we could do a grade band reconfiguration to be cost-effective and not take away from what Miss Jackie said. But we've received a lot of community input, and they want us to at least explore, can we add on? So we're bringing the exploring conversation because the public asked for it. But that is before we went to a busing, Miss Jackie. I would ask for a grade band restructure.
This is just actually questions.
I need to answer this because
Yeah.
it's out in public. There's never been conversation about rezoning District 7 because there is no space. I mean, to get to space on, the south, what would that be, the southeast end, you would think, okay, we'll go to Wolf Teever, where there's not space at Wolf Teever. Then you go to Wallace Smith, well, there's not space at Wallace Smith either. On, the north side, go to East Brainerd, well, there's no, then you're gonna have to push East Brainerd up to Barger, which there's no space at so there's not space to rezone to in District 7. It's a very similar situation to what you have on Signal Mountain, right? To me, it's a more, not more pressing, but you hear what I'm saying. There's a bigger issue around growth and kids coming to elementaries on Signal Mountain. Where do you rezone Signal Mountain to?
Well, didn't they used to originally go to Red Bank before they
The
built
high
the
school
school?
kids did, but not the elementary kids.
Just
All
one,
right, so-
one piece to that. Our elementary schools are almost at 100% capacity district-wide. Dan, do you have that exact?
I don't have it, but
It's right at 100%, is that correct?
when you factor in the overcrowded ones. So when you factor in the overcrowded ones, it ends up being in the 95 or 96 percentile. I can get you the number in just a minute.
And that's the segue I needed. So we're going to wrap this part up. I know Dr. Robertson's got something he's going to talk about, and Ms. Jones is going to just give a brief share of the thing, but it all ties, both of those two things tie into what I'm about to say. So Mr. Coulter, Dr. Sharp gave us growth, 2 months ago, gave us the growth image for Hamilton County over the next 10 to 15 years. We had a rough budget season. We have Dr. Mackey sitting here. Dr. Highlander and I have been talking. We're going to try to get a board and commission meeting held at the Harrison Center that had been canceled a few months back. Hopefully we can do that late September into October with the purpose of becoming friends, not adversaries, and also talk about these growth areas that are needed for more projects, new buildings, but what would really be our next bond issue that we would look at in 3 or 4 years from now. So we do have that on the horizon. Olivia Ross is going to put together a nice slideshow of all the different things we've already done so that we can take that to the commission and let them see what the capital projects money has been doing, but also the phase one and into phase two, what everything has been doing. We're going to put it there. A good example, one of the commissioners didn't understand or didn't realize how much money was already being utilized, and so we're going to put together a good visual so that they can see what all's being done. But we're going to leave this particular part now, and do you want to go first, or do you want Ms. Mosley to? I know
What I'm doing?
we have on here just so the commission and school board joint venture of opening Tyner Middle High.
It's
And-
after this. I get
Right.
You
it.
didn't
Just a
tell
couple
me, I'm
slides
not
here.
prepared.
Oh,
But I
just-
can, I can speak on the cuff, no worries.
Really?
Say less.
Really?
Go ahead.
So, we'll update the board. Back to the very beginning of the summer, I and a couple of members of our team met with C&E, Chattanooga Neighborhood Enterprise. You don't know about that group. They build affordable housing all over the city, trying to see if we could partner with them to open up a number of units that would be specific for our employees. So we were doing it. What we recognized is that their guidelines and stuff make it really hard for our employees, because even though we don't pay them enough, most of our teachers make more money than would qualify. So in that conversation, one of the things they talked about is what they struggle with is finding land to make this work, and it's really difficult for them to do that. So what we've been talking to them about, and we'll come back to the board to explore, is possible partnership with them, where we would lease land to them. They would build units, they would manage the units, operate the units, and there's funding for these type of projects to where it wouldn't cost the board to invest in them, but the rent towards the units would pay for them. You're looking at rent that could be below what is typical in Chattanooga, aiming for around $1,000 per person. So these are rough numbers, but maybe $950 for a one-bedroom apartment, $1,450 for a two-bedroom, $1,950 for a three-bedroom. This would be for any employee in Hamilton County Schools. We've talked to the county mayor's office and the city mayor's office about even the possibility of first responders down the road being a part of this. So what we have talked to them about, and we would need to bring back to you guys, is looking at West 40th. So West 40th, if you haven't been to this property, is the old city school system school board. That's the building in the background that you see there. It kind of sits between Alton Park and St. Elmo. And we own the land that is around the building, so that's highlighted kind of in the teal green. We own. What we would need to get to kind of explore some due diligence is an initial MOU agreement for them to start looking at financing options and what rent rates might look like. But eventually would be putting in, and this is a rough drawing of it, units around that West 40th property, which is about 70 units initially. And then long-term, the possibility of renovating that existing building to turn it into apartments, again, that would be available to our employees, so our cafeteria workers, our educational assistants, teachers, so on and so forth. Again, talk to the county mayor, city mayor, possibility of, if this is successful and we're moving down the road, possibly including first responders, police, fire department, EMT, so on and so forth. So would bring more information back to this board, but I want to put it in front of you initially just to let you know that we're having these conversations. We have sent some paperwork to county mayor's office and to Scott to review to see if it's a possibility. There are some red tapes, things that we may or may not be able to get through before we go obviously too far. I wanted you to be aware of it. Any questions?
I do. So when you say cafeteria workers, just anyone other than teachers, I looked at the at the pricing, and I know affordable is not affordable for those incomes. of people and trying to make sure. So when you all are considering the rent, and I don't know if you can't make landlords do whatever, but 30% is the average of a person's income that you try to make sure their rent is not over. Are you all looking at that, at what Hamilton County School pays all of its employees, and what that 30% would look like of their salary?
Yeah, and the rents will obviously would be dependent on how much it costs, because, I mean, essentially C&E is looking to cover, the cost of the construction. And so it could be a little bit lower. There's also a possibility, depending on how some of the financing goes, of where you could set some aside that would be lower than, the 900, so it would capture, an educational assistant or something like that. But again, when you look at rent rates in Chattanooga, on average compared to what we're trying to get to, those rents are, are lower than what's going on in and around the city.
Ms. Black?
I just had the question of, 40th Street isn't empty. Like, there's the graduation success program, there's McKinney-Vento, there's our welcome school for newcomers, where we get all the paperwork processed, and then they're told which school to go to. Where are we putting that stuff?
Nowhere right now. That building still stays there. So the initial
Okay.
phase is what you kind of see around the outskirts, those units.
Okay.
And West 40th still stays there and operational. If it's successful long-term, you could look at renovating that into more, which then we would have to decide where that goes. But the first part is really just putting the units in and around the property.
I just want to kind of be on record for, like, if we move towards that, the population served by pretty much everything in that building heavily relies on public transportation. So bringing it out out here is not going to work.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put that out there and make sure. I just want to clarify. Thank you.
Yeah.
But this looks great. I think having more affordable housing for our employees is wonderful. I agree with Ms. Thomas that we do need to look at the rates and figure out how we can help our employees who are lowest paid, and see what we can do to help them. Thank you.
And even new teachers, this will help them. Mr. Doherty?
Yeah, thank you. A really interesting concept, and shame on me for not knowing about it. I guess maybe it was spoken about prior to me getting on the board. I'm sure Dr. Brown's excited because obviously it's a great opportunity to help with recruiting. This area, in theory, what schools are zoned for this area?
So this West 40th, and it's not on, this idea started of us not giving any land. They already have units across Chattanooga and like Milltown, off of MLK and some other areas that we were just trying to get them to set aside like 20 units. That was going to be impossible for them to do, and so we started talking about this. So this is brand new, not anything that has gone before. So you've got Calvin Donaldson Elementary School that's zoned for here. High school, different parts of it would either be Howard or some going to Lookout Valley Middle High School.
Yeah, I guess kind of where I'm going at it, and I'm sure you've thought about it. I mean, when I think about quote-unquote assets, I think land's probably one of our biggest assets, particularly when you manage growth. So, I wouldn't want us to be in a position where we have something, then we use it for something else, albeit something very worthwhile, and then 10 years down the road, all these schools are at capacity and, market rates are where they are at, and
Yeah. So when we initially started talking to them, and I'm on the same page with you, so if you see the back part of the property, it's leaving space, and everything that they would do is kind of on this front end of it, which would allow us that if that happened, we would have space to actually put a school there if we actually needed to.
Okay. Thank
Ms.
you.
Haddon?
First, thank you very much for bringing this up to our attention. I think it was mentioned once before, so I appreciate that. I'll just be honest, it's something that, unless I'm really convinced otherwise, that I just don't think it's within the school system's purview to be working on housing. I'd rather us give the teachers a raise or stipends for hard-to-fill areas than invest in this, and you have to worry about buildings managing. It just seems like, and what about other government employees? Teachers would be getting the benefits over others. It's just, unless I'm convinced otherwise strongly, I'm just being honest with my point of view there.
But I need to be clear. So our investment in this would be leasing the land to C&E. C&E would be in charge of building and then also managing the property. So other than us leasing the land, there's no investment from the board.
That's all the questions there. All right, thank you. And our last thing will be to hear from Ms. Jones. And I know there were 4 or 5 of us there, but she was in this process for a couple years with
Beginning to the end.
So
I
thought it would
I
be
can leave today now.
thought it'd be
that
fitting
timer's
that
up.
she gave us a good little summary of what all happened.
So really quickly, thank you, Mr. King. Really quickly, we celebrated with the official ribbon cutting for the new Tyner Middle High Academy, located right over here in Tyner, in the fabulous District 5. And it was a really momentous occasion. Tyner, like I said at the ribbon cutting, is a very resilient community. It's grown the way Chattanooga has grown. It's grown right along with it. And when you walk into that building, Tyner Academy is, to me, just as diverse as what Chattanooga is when you think about what it looks like around there. But it's on the cutting edge. I take pride in knowing that Tyner now continues to be a model school here in Hamilton County, but also in the state of Tennessee, and I believe in our region and even across our nation. It shows what blended partnerships look like from county government, city government, partner, stakeholders, philanthropy. I mean, it just shows how everybody comes together for a community and what it can look like and what can come out of the school. There is a school-based childcare site there, so teachers from Tyner Academy, and we welcome our Ramley family that's not in 5, but should be, up the street. They're able to bring their families, their children as well, so parents are able to work with ease and know their children are being cared for, students, all the future readies that are in there. And I'm really excited because they come, like our future ready representatives come to everything. So like EPB has been at like everything from groundbreaking to ribbon cutting to football games, UTC, teaching and learning, just when you think about all the partnerships there. So just really, really exciting times. And I just want to take the time here because they are not here. And I just really, it's bittersweet because they are away doing great things. But the 2 student leaders that led this work, Kaylee Moore, who is a senior at Howard University, and Jalen Sims, who is, Jalen's a senior at Vanderbilt. Y'all be on the lookout for Kaylee and Jalen because they're gonna be in the public eye, okay? They're movers and shakers, and they're gonna be making moves, and that class is as well. But just really proud of them and them being a voice, and I feel like that's what Hamilton County Schools is all about, teaching our kids what the world looks like, what society looks like, and how to be an advocate for one another. So if you have not, well, y'all will be there coming up soon. If you have not been by, yeah, I know Felice and Jackie, a couple people have been there, Joe, a couple people, but if you have not been, I would encourage you to go by. But if not, you will see it when we have fall district meeting there. But it is stellar. Jody, she don't think I heard her one day, but I heard her call it the Tyner Mahal, and we will take that. We'll take it a million times over because that district and those kids deserve it. And so that's what I feel like when you go into that building. I know we've had a lot of conversations today about facilities, but when you go into Tyner, I think all 11 of us will agree that is what all schools in Hamilton County should strive to be, look like, and provide educational opportunities to children. So thank you to the County Commission, thank you to County Mayor, thank you to Dr. Robertson and his team and their leadership, all the previous superintendents who have been on this road with us, Johnson, Kelly, all of them, everybody that's been on this road with us. Thank you to everyone, the community. everybody, city government, thank you for everybody that made this possible for the children of Hamilton County. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I promise you, you will not be disappointed. So stay on the lookout for when they play their first game on the field. Coming up, when is that? When will that be done? Will that be done before football? Because I'm getting a lot of calls about that. They're getting nervous.
You were happy. Let's keep that going.
And I keep telling them, from my understanding, y'all supposed to play a game on that field. Shooting for that before that's over with. But thank you all so much, because it is truly a dream deferred, now realized, and I am very excited to see those students get to walk in that building.
And that's a wrap for our facility meeting. We are now heading into the finance meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Apologize, everybody, for going long, but that's why we get paid the big bucks here.
Mr. Mackey?
Here's my goal, though. I'm going to have a hard stop at 8 p.m. I know everybody's got family, so the reality is we may not get everything in. I do know we have some guests here, so I want to prioritize Penny, your thing. And before I begin, official beginning, I just kind of want to lay out kind of the way I'm thinking about this year. Obviously, last year was far from ideal. So in my mind, and talking with Dr. Robertson, I think part of the strategy is to have a lot of these conversations earlier in the year, have a little more conversations around it, so that, we feel we're all on the same page going into things when we have to start making some decisions later in the year. And then, candidly, from my perspective, and I'm confident this is a shared sentiment across the board, is, we really need to be in a position this year to prioritize raises and step. So that's, in my mind, that's something we got to make sure we're trying to keep our eye on, and how we build it in is kind of a cornerstone piece. So with that, I'm going to let Penny kick it off. I know we got some special guests here, so thank you guys for coming tonight. And we'll kick it off. But again, I'm going to try to do hard stop at 8, just out of respect for everybody's time. So if we don't get everything in tonight, we'll find another time down the road.
All right, thank you. I'd like to introduce Brent Wick and Austin Jett from the Baldwin Group. I will say that they have been instrumental in guiding us through all the complex benefit issues and what we need to do in order to become and be sustainable, but still offer the most effective and competitive benefits for our employees. I'll also say that we're fortunate they are also the brokers for county government. And so we have recently leveraged that with some of our contracts, and they're going to talk about that tonight as well. And we are just excited about informing you of some of the changes that we're looking forward to next year. And then to let you know that open enrollment does start October 1st, and so we will bring to you some decisions in September.
Thanks, Penny. And just real quick before you guys go, just to add a little more context to this, the intent with Penny coming in and bringing the Baldwin Group in was health insurance is so complex. I'll be the first to say I have a decent understanding of it, but it's incredibly complex. The reality is like when we look at our budget, it's one of our largest single line items, and it's probably our most variable cost component that's at risk, meaning that it can fluctuate year over year. And with the nature of our business, our funding is, somewhat confined in the sense we only have so much revenue, so we've got to back into that. So my point being is, this is something that's so critical to us kind of managing as best we can, as best anybody can, health insurance. So that's just so everybody has a little context. I wanted us to try to be on the same page as much as we could. It's a complex system, something we got to try to manage best we can, because anytime it goes up, that's dollars away from teachers or anything else. So anyway, sorry, Penny, go ahead.
Great. So I will try to be as brief as I can on a pretty complicated, you'll see a lot of information in front of you. My goal is really to try to give you some key points that I think help with, so that when you walk out of here, you have at least some grasp of where things have been from a health plan perspective, directionally where things are headed, and things that are really going to impact the next really 3-year period of time as we look forward. So the first, just to level set, kind of how's the health plan run? Historically, this is looking at cost on a per employee basis to say how has the school health plan run compared to national averages using PricewaterhouseCoopers. They publish annual trend numbers on a national basis. If you look at where we've been the last 7 years, the plan's actually outperformed the national trend by 2.3%. If you annualize, or if you take that on a cumulative basis, that's $38 million. So a very significant difference, even though it's a small percentage. When you compound that, it becomes a major impact. Ultimately, the goal is how do we continue to drive that trend down, and what avenues we have to be able to do that. I did want to provide you with just dollars spent historically. So we've actually increased the expense in the health plan by 56% over that same 7-year period. However, we increased the number of people covered by 17% during that same time period. So I at least wanted you to be able to see the historical total spend. Keep in mind, this is total cost, so part of this is paid by employees through their payroll deductions, and the other part is paid by the schools. So what's represented is actually the total cost. And I'll give you a breakdown of the schools versus employee portion as well. The best way, this kind of gives you a lot of the same information. I just didn't want you to have to try to calculate or go find. This is just per employee per month cost comparisons historically. This is kind of the way we track things, just so you're always looking at things on an apples-to-apples basis. And really, this is where you would see total costs have increased from 2019, full year 2019, or fiscal year 2019, 33.4%. We've actually started to see some of that stabilize. We had a big jump in 22. And then you think about time frame, that's when a lot of the resources were implemented as far as on-site clinic, on-site pharmacy, starting to see those trends improve since that time. If we look at it from the standpoint of what has been spent or for 25, what was the actual budget amount, what was the actual result? So the budget in total was $84 million, looking at 25, and the actual expense was $86.3 million. So we were $2.3 million above. The actual was $2.3 million above the budget amount. And you'll see in the light blue in the graph, that is actually the full year 26 budget, the 91 point almost 6 million. Keep in mind that budget number does assume a lot of the action items that have already been presented. One you all had recently passed with the PBM change. That savings is already included, as well as the ones that we'll review at the end. So just want to make sure that that's already included in that projected number.
What does that stand for?
The Pharmacy Benefit Management
Oh,
Company.
okay,
So that was the
Pharmacy
RFP that
Benefit
was,
Management.
yeah, I
Okay.
think 2 weeks ago, it was last week,
Okay.
was approved. The other, in the center of this page you see is the actual Hamilton County Department of Education costs. So that's what the schools are actually paying towards the insurance. And that on the far right are the employee costs. So the schools are actually paying 78.3% of the total costs of the health plan currently. How that translates from a internal service fund perspective. So the end result was $134,000 surplus. The 160, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was, you may have to chime in. So the big thing, key points, we had the $2.3 million deficit on the health plan. There was actually a surplus on the dental cost perspective of $1.2 million. When you take, there's other insurances and coverages, my understanding, in the internal service fund that also had a surplus of $229,000, and then an additional contribution from GP into the internal service fund, which of $1 million, which is what the net result is, the $160,000.
So real quick, just so the board's on the same page, Mary Ellen, keep me honest here, but we basically have two fund balances, right? We've got a regular GP fund balance, where we've got, I don't know the number, 29 million. Then we've got health insurance fund balance, right? In your experience, what's a healthy amount in there? Is it 3 months worth of? Yeah, so you would definitely want to have
some established portion from a percentage, 3 months would be a good number. I see those actually vary. I've worked with a lot of public sector and have my entire career across the state, including the state. And so you see a lot of variation, and even if you look in the community, you'll see pretty big fluctuation. But having at least, if you think about it in terms of 1 to 2 months, just because of the ebb and flow. And I think maybe it's helpful to, just to remind everybody that the health plan is self-insured, right? So the schools are actually funding claims as they come through. We do have some insurance to protect it on claims. They're significant in size, over $425,000, but everything else is paid by it comes right through the bank account and funded. Well, that's obviously going to fluctuate year over year. And so having that allows to kind of manage that ebb and flow some if need be.
So right now, we don't have enough in there for, but historically, at one point in time, we did.
Yeah, we did. We had built up, I think it was 21, around 57 million. And and because we basically didn't push over enough, we used it for a while. We started clinic and then COVID hit. I mean, there was a lot of timing differences and not raising premiums for 10 years. So, we opted not to put more in. And then we've been slowly over the years charging all of GP and all of our funds for what we're contributing, but trying to get that right balance. So we've, again, when we make that decision is kind of 18 months ahead of what it actually starts impacting. And again, the changes we've been talking about, that'll start in January, but it takes a while to kind of turn the ship on to do that. So we've stopped the bleeding. So we put in an extra $1 million after we did a mid-year assessment this year. And so that's going to get us, positive at the end of the year. We feel like the changes we did in our budget, the 26 budget, where we approved an increase, considering the cost savings, we feel like that'll keep us, adding a little bit, but that's why you can't just take those savings to decrease it, because there's no cushion to do that. So we hope to get it up, and that's what we got to kind of decide is what's the right number of, keeping a balance to let us manage those flows.
Right now, it's 167 or 375?
375 is our projected at the end.
The reason I asked. One heart surgery. Yeah, one heart surgery. Yeah. But to Mary Ellen's point, I mean, not raising premiums for 10 years, I mean, that was really the only way to keep up with it. So it just overemphasizes the complexity of the system while trying to maintain healthy insurance. And as you guys can see how expensive it is. So anyway, keep going, please.
So one other component, and this impacts the internal service fund. I think Mary Ellen, this adjustment is made annually for incurred but not reported. So if the health plan were to stop at the end of June, there's still claims that have to be paid from all the doctor's visits, hospital visits, all those things that happen. And so this is the liability that needs to be maintained to cover those costs should the health plan end. And so it's right at $6.9 million, and so we update that really annually at minimum, and then we provide it at any point as needed throughout the year. So going a little deeper into costs, and there's a lot of information here, and I won't bore you, but there are a couple of things I want to point out. So the fixed cost here at the top of this is, you'll see in the gray boxes, that is the actual cost to administer the health plan. So we pay Blue Cross and Cigna to administer, pay claims, answer the telephone, those things. We also, that is the cost where we purchase reinsurance to cover our large claim protection. So that cost has trended at 3.7% over the past 6 years. If you look right below that, that's our pharmacy claims. And I stress claims because that does not include the rebates we get back from manufacturers. That's part of the pharmacy benefit management bid that was done, and one of the key components that comes in are those rebates. When you factor those in, we've actually done pretty well with pharmacy cost as far as nearly a flat trend the last 3 years. Really ties into the expansion, and I'll demonstrate that with the on-site pharmacy. So we'll talk about that. But also, just to give you an idea, 72% of our population is enrolled in Cigna. I also included the costs broken down by Cigna and Blue Cross. I just want to be cautious with that as you look at the difference. because there's such a big disparity in populations enrolled in both, the actual cost of those plans is not indicative of what the cost is in general. So if we move everybody from one to the other, that's not what the actual cost would be. It's the fact that the Blue Cross population is smaller, also happens to be a lot of the retirees that live out of the area, those types of things. So just be mindful of that.
So what you're saying is I know, Penny, you guys, we talked about this, if we consolidate, I mean, right now there's two options. You've got Cigna or Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Right.
And on paper, you could say, okay, we can consolidate to one carrier, maximize, leverage that volume, drive down costs, in theory, right? But what you're saying is that due to the differences with Blue Cross Blue Shield with some of the retirees, if you were to put them on a Cigna account, that cost would probably be higher than Blue Cross Blue Shield. Is that what you're saying?
So they would be very, very close. So when we do, like in the last bid, we do unit cost analysis to determine, so what does it cost to go to the hospital if you're with Cigna? What's it cost under Blue Cross? And those analysis, the costs are very, very similar. So there's not a big advantage. The real leverage becomes just the administrative cost, which is a very small part. I mean, we're paying $40-some per employee per month. So there's not big savings to be gained. The big savings is what you just approved, was consolidating the pharmacy benefit management company and leveraging the whole population. That was the opportunity where you really had significant savings.
If I can, I'm gonna jump in with one just little tidbit from I look at it a little bit differently, just the timing of when it hits. But we really pushed participation in the pharmacy and the clinics, and that would tip, and it did. So we look at 23, like the net cost of the pharmacy and the clinics less the rebates was like 5.5 million. It grew in 24 to 7.5. It's now 4.2 million. So it actually net costs us less because we've gotten so much participation in the pharmacy. So that was, when we originally started, that was the plan, but COVID sort of put us behind in getting the benefits from having the pharmacy and clinic. But now we've seen that it is really, and then you also consider the net cost of the services that we're getting within those versus straight through the claim. So it's gotten there, and I think the work we've done to get participation up and using the pharmacy and the clinics has really helped.
And just so everybody knows, the rationale behind encouraging employees to utilize our own clinics is we are able to better mitigate cost of prescriptions, right? That's the main one? Okay.
And some wellness perspective.
Yeah, and I'll actually review we track kind of the performance of the on-site pharmacy. We also track the performance of the on-site clinic, so I can give you financial numbers behind that as well, of the actual performance. So large claims, I mentioned earlier buying reinsurance, that we have insurance to cover any claimant that has claims in excess of $425,000 in a single year, which seems like a really big number. But if you have in front of you the actual page 9, the large claim report, you'll see in fiscal year 24, we actually had a claimant at $3.2 million in 12 months. That is not uncommon. The largest I've seen over the last few years is about 12 million. And so to manage that, if we didn't have reinsurance, think about what that would have done, that one claimant, how much impact it has on a budget. So we have that protection to keep that from really impacting the budget. But I think the other key thing that's important here is just how much large claims have grown. So this is one of the fastest areas that have expanded in healthcare ever since healthcare reform. We've seen a significant increase in cost of high dollar claimants. So if we look at it in 22, 12% of the cost came from people with claims of $100,000 or more in the year. If we compare that to this past year, claimants that had $100,000 or more represented 22.4% of our cost. So significant increase. That also is impacting the cost of reinsurance. And we will continue to see pretty significant cost pressures. I'll highlight the actual trend. The financial impact of inflation itself is now really starting to come through in healthcare. And I'll highlight that, but reinsurance is one of the specific areas you'll see that come through.
What do we pay reinsurance right now?
So the reinsurance cost on a per employee basis is right at $40 per employee per month. So annually, roughly 2.4, 2.5 million.
And one point you're saying is every time we have higher claims, that insurance cost goes up
Yeah,
as well.
right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the hard part, and that's, we try to manage kind of our actuary and underwriting team does a constant every year. We look at what's the optimal pooling point, or the threshold to buy insurance based on historical and what we see going forward. That's why you see the big change from 375 to 425. Obviously, that lowers premium, but we take more risk. And actually, it's going to work out well because we'll get a refund from the stop loss this coming year based on the financial performance. So a lot of moving parts there. So kind of switch gears a little bit to looking at just some general things about the health plan and specific cost drivers, areas that we pay a lot of attention to. And this, this could be 50 pages. So I feel in a lot of ways we won't do it justice, but at least hopefully give you some information to walk away with. But it's just helpful to see who we cover, who's covered under the health plan. So there's 5,000, in the last 12 months we had 5,188 employees, on average covered, 4,000 children, 1,039 spouses, so 10,230 total average covered members. The risk scores that are listed below that, so one would be kind of if you assume one's your norm, obviously below one is a favorable risk score, above one is an unfavorable risk score. Don't be alarmed when you see 1.61, those aren't terrible numbers. We get real concerned when you start seeing 5s, 10s, 12s, and 18s as people progress, usually in some disease state. But the key in that is we track all the members within the health plan are tracked with risk scores. And that's all aggregated. Obviously, we're looking at everything on an aggregate basis of the population. You see that spouses and employees are the same. I'm going to give you some financial data that goes with that. Actually, spouses do cost more, so there is an impact even though the risk score is the same. The other thing, by tracking the risk scores and being able to look at it by populations, and looking at those that utilize the clinic, we can actually see that those members that have been using the on-site clinic, their risk scores have actually decreased over the last 2 years. And decreased risk score correlates directly to decreased cost. So some good results, but just a big picture kind of perspective. Switch gears to where the dollars actually go. This doesn't tell us a lot, except a lot of people like to know, well, where's the actual money go? And if you look at inpatient services, outpatient is the fastest growing on the hospital side. Most things moving, many of us probably experienced go from inpatient and go to outpatient services. The one key that I do want to point out, and this highlights the need for the action that was taken on the pharmacy benefit management RFP, is the one area we're really out of line is pharmacy cost. Literally double what we would expect from a benchmark standpoint. Even though we've trended well, we're still paying a lot. There's some reason behind that that I want to show you, but it does kind of support the need to look for the best and most efficient way we can purchase and drive cost on the pharmacy side of the equation.
And to clarify, this is all pharmacy claims, not just on-site.
Right. Yeah, that is looking at everything that was, every prescription from the on-site as well as the retail or mail order. So here's the big, one of the things that correlates with the pharmacy cost. And so first, if we look at the total health plan as a whole, the pie chart on the left there. So if you look at this, from every dollar of claims that happen, employees are paying only 5 cents of that dollar. The health plan picks up 95 cents of every dollar. So that's looking at whether you went to the doctor, hospital, pharmacy, all combined. If we break that down though and look just at pharmacy, employees are paying less than 3 cents of every dollar when they pick up their prescriptions. And so the plan itself is an extremely rich benefit. So when we compare the cost in pharmacy and the fact that we're double benchmark, well, our benefits are exponentially richer than what you would see from a benchmark as well, and that correlates to costs in is always gonna mean we're higher just because more is picked up by the plan versus the employee paying a higher percentage. To give you a kind of a comparison, the benchmark, so total plan, the school's plan's paying 95 cents of every dollar. Benchmarking that would be closer to 88 cents of every dollar. The state plan is actually close to the 88% if you take, obviously they have multiple plans and you extract that. So just a very rich benefit also has an impact to cost. We talked about large claims, and I'm just gonna, there's a lot of information here to keep it really simple. So just to give you an idea how fluctuation happens, this is really maybe a key point to the idea of having funds, fund balance and different things, because the fluctuation does happen. So last year, we had 110 large claims over 100,000 prior, that's 13 more than the prior year. But when you factor in the size of those large claims, the amount we got back from the reinsurance policy, the net impact, so we actually had lower claims in total paid, but it cost the health plan 2.1 million more. Think about our miss to the budget's 2.3, and this alone actually makes up the difference in what budget was. So it just, large claims have a really big impact in fluctuation, and that's what we try to price for. Also, it's accounted for in the budget number that we referenced, the $91.6 million number we talked about earlier. It's just trying to make sure we have some margin there. Two other key cost drivers. So when we talk about chronic conditions, these are things we're constantly tracking. We have nurses on staff here in our Chattanooga office that work with us, actually work with one-to-one, making sure they have good information and helping them identify opportunities to be more effective. But chronic conditions drive a significant amount of the cost of the health plan. So in essence, we're over 70% of the spend comes from members that have at least one chronic condition. So the impact of that, if you think I've got the average member cost is $8,400 there, but someone with at least one chronic condition is at least double that number and as much as 3 times that number. The key when you think about the importance of like the wellness plan that was launched, the access to on-site services through the clinic, the pharmacy, the key for folks that have chronic conditions is how do you give them access and resources to manage their condition? How do you make sure they're compliant, taking their medications regularly? Obviously, there shouldn't be a cost issue because of the plan, but that can happen. So how do you take away those barriers and access to care? But those resources are critical in just making sure to manage this population, which has twofold. It's going to allow them to live a much healthier life, but it's also going to impact the plan financially. And so really important aspect when you think just in 17% of the population has hypertension diagnosis, 7.5% diabetic, almost 6% pre-diabetic, and those are significant lifestyle impacts. And so how can we alter that? Last, I mentioned spouses have a significant cost. So they're currently costing 21% more than an employee. And so as we look at contribution strategies, this is always something that we look at as just where does the cost actually come from? More importantly here, I want to point out the unit cost trend. So I talked about what's happening. So our analytics can we look at it and say, for the same services, what do we pay this year versus the prior 12 months? That unit cost, which is just inflation, represented $5.8 million in additional cost. And so you think about, you look at the historical cost increases, like this is what we have to offset. So as we look at ways we can save money, decrease cost, we're starting with an inflated starting point because we have to cover the increase that happened year over year. Key thing here is to understand this is not We are seeing trends continue. This isn't going to stop. Healthcare inflation actually lags normal inflation because you have long-term healthcare contracts. All those are now coming up from what we've seen over the inflation that happened over the last 3 to 5 years. And so now you're seeing, you see a lot of it play out publicly with the hospitals terming contracts and trying to renegotiate. Just about every major insurance company in the state's been through multiple battles at this point. But that's going to continue, so that puts a lot of pressure on the cost of the health plan.
So why do spouses cost more than employees?
So I would say not uncommon from what we would see across the board, especially in the public sector, but even in the private sector, you will see it commonly. A lot of times that can just be, so it's not in all cases, but when you're looking at averages, so you may have spouses that aren't able to work, especially with the incentives that have been in place. A lot of times they don't have insurance elsewhere.
Pardon me, I hate to interrupt, but I've had someone say that you're not close enough to the speaker for those online.
Is that better?
Yes.
Sorry. Raise it up a bit. Yeah, so it's really kind of a nature of just the spouses that are covered. So people that are working have access to other coverage, are typically probably taking it, especially with how the contributions are set up for the schools. That would be the case. So more than likely you have your older spouses potentially that don't have other coverage, maybe early retiree from somewhere else. So you just have a more expensive demographic that you're actually insuring. But it does, it's consistent. Like we see that all the time. I would say it's one of the top 3 conversations we have with clients is just their strategy in trying to handle spouse cost.
Thank you. We got one question from Mrs. Jones.
Not really a question. I wanted to kind of support what he was saying. So, back in the day, in 2014, when I first got here, the district had what everybody was calling the Cadillac plan. Like you probably would have passed out being if you saw it. It was very much all things Cadillac. Well, I'm saying like it was a very, like people was wanting to work in Hamilton County schools because of the benefits. It was very rich in benefits. So like you could have been not making a lot in salary, but your fringe was clearly superseding. It was helping you to be here. And so the boards that we set on throughout the years as we've looked at insurance, we've gotten it down to here, which is why when you look at the sustaining of the not increasing the premium, even when we did have to increase the premium, we talked about it. You remember a few years ago when we talked about, Penny was here. Now some of y'all been here with me. I ain't the only one old over here. But when we talked about that, it was a whole big conversation. But I do remember when we took out spouses, unless they had, I remember us removing them from the from being able to seek benefits if their employer provided benefits because of the amount of money we were spending.
We still do that.
Right.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to share that, being like, although this may seem a certain way in a number for you, it was drastically more.
Right, we still do that, and they are required to complete that affidavit, so, yes. But they can cover them, it's at a surcharge currently, so.
Yeah, it's good perspective, Carita. Thank you. We've got another question from Gary.
I was just curious, so one thing that my wife and I talked about that could possibly lower things is how they police office visits. I went through, I'm probably actually one of your top things this year. But every time I had something wrong, I had to go back to my general doctor for him to make a recommendation to go see one of the specialists. I went to 4 different specialists for 4 different health-related things. And some of them were related. They were all in the same hospital association. Why can a heart doctor not make a recommendation to go see the lung doctor or to the kidney doctor or to the oncologist? Every time I had to go to a worthless visit, in my opinion, and they charged insurance for that visit. And then I turned around and went to the same person that those doctors told me would be good to go see, but they could not make the recommendation.
Yeah, I think, so what you get at is really the inefficiencies that are built into our system. So if you look at big picture, we have a great healthcare system. I mean, the technology, the resources, the care that you can get. I actually personally, my parents live with me, so my wife and I my wife's a nurse practitioner, we help them navigate the system. If it wasn't for my wife, I don't know how either one would make it, because it's very complicated. You get in those circles, just like you're describing. I mean, that's what our older adults are faced with on a regular basis. All of us are probably faced with it at one point in time. I think that's the big key when you think about the things that you all have supported as a board for employees through the on-site clinic, text care that's done, because those are just resources that help people try to navigate that and at least have a place you can go. And it's very difficult, but it's the efficiency within the system is a big part of cost. And there's not a simple way to take it out, because that's the pattern of care.
Who polices that?
So at this point, so HMOs used to. I mean, the true HMO from the late 80s, 90s timeframe, as the backlash kind of took place of a true HMO world where you had to have the gatekeeper and all. Insurance companies were looking at that. Now as far as access to physicians, whether you go through your primary care or not, a lot of times it's just the specialist will have those policies, that they don't just take an open referral. Like, you can't just call and come. They want to know you need to come see them. So that's where it gets complicated, right?
Thank you. We got one last question. Mr. Slater from District 1.
Okay. As somebody who was in the insurance business for 34 years, we were always concerned with cost per claim. Have you got that information, like from 2020, when we started with COVID, to now, the cost per claim?
So not in total. I would typically we're not looking at cost per claim, just because you have to get down to what every service, like the cost per claim based on service, because CPT code dictates, even though it's same doctor, same process, depending on the complexity of that office visit, there's going to be potentially 10 different CPT codes that are assigned.
Information to us? I'd like to see that.
I can show it to you on aggregate. I mean, I can give you the per claim, just a pure claim number. We can definitely poll what that looks like. It'll be pretty broad. I don't know if it gives a lot of insight, but we can absolutely get it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It give me a good idea, because I'm looking at from COVID to now, that cost per claim, I would bet, has gone up significantly since 2020.
Yeah, I think from an inflation standpoint, if we are looking at the same procedures, I mean, those costs are anywhere from 12 to probably 18% higher from if we look post-COVID. But that number is growing quickly because of what's happening in the increases for reimbursements to the hospitals, physicians that are taking place now. So you would see even greater over the next 12 months of what that total is. But we can definitely provide multiple things, and just let us know if you'd like to see it different. We can pull it. So just a couple things, and I know we're pushing time, so I'm going to skip a couple of things, but just at least touch a couple of highlights. I mentioned we do track the pharmacy performance. Just high level 39, if you look at cost of 30-day script coming through on-site versus retail, it's 39% less. So there's a reason to use the pharmacy. Good statistics around the use of the pharmacy. Same with if we look at the on-site clinic, and I'm going to skip a couple here and just go to the financial. So the summary of this is real easy. If you close the on-site clinic, the health plan goes up by $640,000 a year, and the employees pay another $431,000 in additional copays. So both are being very effective in helping control cost and creating a platform to make changes that can have a long-term impact when it comes to trend. there are a couple of the historical plan information we gave you, so I'm not going to spend time going over that. But the key thing that is important for y'all to see are the opportunities, the saving opportunities that are included in the budget process. So we already, the pharmacy benefit management RFP has already been approved, so that's already listed. The summation of these, Mary Ellen talked about the budget cycle. So for full year 26, all these changes represent an impact to the budget of 3.57 million, even though the annualized savings is 8.3, because not all these things will go into place right away. Some of the contributions are January. Benefit changes have a lag. Claims don't represent those benefit changes for several months down the road. So trying to take into account what the real impact is from a budget standpoint. So I just want to review some of these with you so you have them. If you look at the benefit changes, so this is an annual savings of 1.3 million, gives you what is changing to the Cigna plan as well as the Blue Cross plan. I just think the key thing here to point out is, so I mentioned 95 cents of every dollar is paid by the insurance currently. Once all these changes are made, the insurance plan still pays 93.6% of all claims. So benchmark was 88. So you're still have an extremely rich benefit compared to what you would benchmark against, as well as even the state.
We have a quick question from Mr. Connor.
Sorry, just about the pharmacies. Would it be good for us? We have the two, correct? Here and Access Road. Would it be good for us to open like one or two more of those to try to? Can you tell where people are getting prescriptions from elsewhere? Like, is there probably down in Jody's district? They're probably not driving all the way up here because I know just driving here this afternoon, it's really hard to get here. And I've also driven past my pharmacy twice coming here and not picked up my stupid prescriptions. But would it be better for us to have one at a site to save costs too? Open more, I guess.
Yeah, so potentially it's just the expense of opening another one. You start eating into your actual savings, so you end up with a net cost if you're not careful. One of the things that we talked about, so it's Hamilton County government actually uses the same on-site pharmacy company. They have a pharmacy downtown. So one of the things that we've already had initial discussions between both the folks with Penny's team from the schools as well as Hamilton County government's administrative team is, can we leverage those two contracts?
Yeah.
So not only the pharmacy, but the on-site clinics.
It would also be huge because another cost is restocking, because I've had 3 different prescriptions called in to Hamilton County instead of Hamilton County schools over the course of just the last year. Okay, well, that would be really awesome.
We also have mail order, so
Right.
that is totally free and convenient.
Do you know also if we could incur any cost savings if we allowed like the spouses that are on a different plan to use our pharmacy? Would that be better for us? Would we be able to make money off of that?
Yeah, so it gets kind of complicated because of how the pharmacy actually, the claims work. So they actually contract with all the PBMs. So like the new pharmacy benefit management company that was just approved, they'll actually contract with the network and all, but it's isolated to the schools. So when the claim comes in, it won't recognize other insurance, which means you'd be buying.
Just looking to turn a buck. Just looking to turn a buck.
Yeah. The I'm going to kind of go through these. Stop me if you have questions as I go through. But retiree contributions. So, big picture, retiree, the cost is nearly $8.7 million to cover retirees. That's $26,505 a year per retiree. They're currently paying $1.14 million. If we look at what the contracted rate, what they should be paying, so their contributions hadn't changed the same period. The actives weren't changing. They should be paying 1.85. So the recommendation and propose is to increase that to 1.54 million, which would be a cost reduction of $400,000. It's still starting to move them to what the actual contract rate is, but trying to make it a little more palatable. Those changes are included in your packet. I'm not going to go through the details. It's a lot of small numbers, but I did want to make sure you had that information so you could see the impact. The employee contributions, so this is looking at the changes. So back when this was presented, it was outlined to have a $25 per employee per month increase to employee cost. This is kind of the breakout of what that looks like. Obviously, it's not equal for those that cover more than just themselves. If you're covering your family, you're going to pick up more portion of that. So you can see on the far right, this is the increase per covered person based on the tier they select, the plan design or the benefit that they select. And that's the monthly increase on the far right.
We do have a question from Joe Black.
I wanted to go back to the retiree contribution. So are our retiree costs primarily supplemental plans for Medicare, replacement plans, Part C?
No, so coverage actually ends at Medicare. So these are all
Okay.
pre-Medicare, so
So
it's full coverage.
everybody between retirement age and 65?
Correct.
Great, okay, thanks. Thank you.
All right, the next item is the dental contribution. So we've had a strategy in place now for multiple years to move dental to a voluntary benefit where employees would pay for that if they want it. Hamilton County government's plan has been voluntary actually for quite some time. There's a pretty consistent move, both public sector, private sector, to offer dental on more voluntary, driven mainly by the increase in cost in healthcare. This is the next phase in that. You can see the impact per pay difference. This is on a 26 pay period basis. The schools would still be paying part of the premium, but it's just making another step towards that contribution. Two other things. One is provider steerage. So we have an opportunity with members that are in Cigna to use freestanding high-tech imaging, so CT scans, MRIs, PET scans. Currently, employees, if they're covered under Cigna, pay a $100 copay. So this opportunity would allow the member not to have to pay the copay, so it saves all the employees, their family members money. But it also represents an opportunity to decrease the school's cost for each of those scans by as much as 70%. So the total of that opportunity is $250,000 in additional savings. It's a matter of how Cigna contracts and funds that. It's a kind of a fixed expense that's built into the claim side of the contract. And so this is a way we can really actually give the employee a benefit, reduce their cost, and actually save money for the schools as well. Behavioral health is an opportunity, again, that's really funded by those members that are covered by Cigna. So this is an opportunity to save another $350,000. One-to-One currently is providing behavioral health visits in the on-site clinics. And those providers are now going to be contracted through Cigna. Cigna has, for a long period of time with the schools predating us, provided behavioral health on a fixed cost basis. And so because of that, and now we're adding those clinicians to the Cigna network, we're actually going to get reimbursed for that cost. Right now, that's all built into the cost of the clinic. And so that reimbursement now is about $350,000 based on the volume of visits. So just an opportunity. I think not only the key here is this is a big cost impact, obviously, but it's equally as important as members still have access. Because in our community, it is not easy to get into with a behavioral health clinician. You can be waiting for 3 to 6 months if they will take you, unless you pay cash, right? So by providing this to the employees through the clinic, it's a significant impact to their lives and a great benefit. Last time we talked about, we already talked about negotiating kind of what we can do on the clinics and pharmacies, leveraging the schools and the county. We actually already did this with Cigna, and this was just kind of sitting down and walking through what the opportunity is, because Cigna obviously has a lot of membership between the schools and the county. By doing that, the net was a $437,000 savings. Some of that's fixed costs, some of that's claims. $87,000 of that was represented by just them waiving 1 month's fee that we pay them. That's the administrative fee. They also provided a dedicated case manager. Typically, that's a $100,000 cost. We don't have to pay that $100,000. These dollars there, the savings are what we expect to save in claims. That's just providing more access to people that are really ill going through cancer, different kinds of significant health crisis. They now have there's a dedicated resource to all the Hamilton County School employees. So a great opportunity. And then we also were able to get an enhanced level of service. So when employees are calling customer service with Cigna, they're now going to have a different service model. That model focuses more on touching the member looking for gaps in care. They've missed medications, those types of things. So an opportunity really just for a more experienced service team that they're contacting and trying to help them facilitate gaps in their health care as well. And that's already something that they've agreed to and will be implemented and recognize those savings. The last item was the life and disability. So we've already made an extension to that based on the county having Symetra as well as the schools. And so the opportunity then, and we still need to work through that process because obviously there's multiple moving parts, but how can we leverage that relationship when it's time to look at those coverages in another, I guess it'd be about 15 months when that contract ends. Any questions? I know we're pushing.
Yeah, I didn't know about this free YMCA thing. Who can talk to me about that?
So, gentlemen, thank you guys for coming. I know we're leaning on you guys a lot for guidance and wisdom because this is incredibly complex. I really do want to take a moment and thank Penny and Mary Ellen for their work. I know Justin will agree with me on this. Penny in particular has really taken this on and, is trying to get a hold of it because it does represent such a risk to the overall budget. So thank you guys both for coming on a Monday. Last thing, real quick, Mary Ellen will get mad at me, but I do just want to allow her to provide just a quick update, and then we will adjourn after that.
Yeah, so we're not going to go into this real quick, but I did kind of want to show some of the other slides that we've got just so you have some context around them. The next thing after the presentation is kind of a snapshot of FY25 today. We've still got some big numbers outstanding, so this could move some. The good news, we were originally thinking our deficit at the end of the year, use of fund balance would be around 12 million. We're around 7 right now. Now, again, there's still some outstanding numbers, but that puts us in a better place than we were kind of projecting when we were looking at our healthcare costs. Part of that was we talked about we put $1 million in. We thought we'd put in more than that. So again, we'll do an update on this as we get numbers finalized, but we did want to kind of give you the general area of where we are. And I know there's some other information, enrollments in here from Shannon. The very last page I do want to call your attention to is kind of a quick high level of the 27 budget process, some of the key items. So obviously benefits will go into that, looking at all our other factors, but just kind of wanted to give context that this is not final numbers on the 25. And it could still be off a few million here or there based on, because property tax and I still don't have the final June sales tax, so there's still movement in there, but we're in the ballpark better than we expected. Let's
keep it up, Mary Ellen.
We're getting there, so thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for the update. Thank you, board members, for all coming tonight. This is going to be a recurring conversation, so obviously keep this packet, and appreciate everybody coming this evening.
Thank you.